Do homies, this is In His Truth Ministries. Today we're going to be talking about Jonah and the about the fact that God pursues people. That will be the theme of today's conversation. Today I'll be talking with my boy, Pastor and Evangelist Mike Canny. Flex for him, Mike. Flex for him, man. Yeah, man. If you come to Jesus, man, it's gonna be hell for you, man. All right, so today we're going to talk about, like I said, Jonah. Um, Jonah's so rich, full of stuff, man. You know what I'm talking?
I definitely agree.
Well, whenever you read Jonah, what are some things that you get from it, Mike?
Well, first off, I get that not only do in Jonah's time the disobedience that he showed to God, there was consequences.
Yeah.
Likewise, there is today in time. But not only that, like you said, you brought up one of the good points about God pursuing us. We see the consequences sometimes more so than God trying to pursue us, and I think that's one of the prominent things of this book. One of the profound things of this book is that God, the God of this universe, the Creator, is willing to create the fish for us. Prepare us. He's able to create a fish in today's time. May not necessarily. I mean, obviously, I'm not literally speaking, but He prepares for us today to make us used of Him and equip us, just like He would Jonah. So
sometimes
we just need to
the circumstances life. He has to give us one of those belly in a fish moment.
Yeah, He does. He does.
Yeah, it's kind of like a wilderness moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And
I agree.
Yeah. Well, definitely this whole story that God pursues people. We see that first thing we see, guys, we see that He pursues believers who run from His calling. We see Jonah. He's someone who obviously knows God. God speaks to him, and he's faced with the decision on whether he's answered the call of God in his life or not. Yeah. He in verse 1 of Jonah chapter 1, it says, "Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Athemiah, if I'm pronouncing that right, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come before me." How many times in our life we know Jesus, we're walking with Jesus, but He comes to us and gives us a specific direction for our life, but we don't enter it. We run the other direction, and we want to do that complete opposite.
Yeah.
Honestly, in my life, I mean, there are plenty of times in my life you see.
We feel like we're the ones that appoint the task sometimes. I feel like rather than God divinely appointing a task before us, and I think that comes with the closeness of God. But like you say, I don't know how many times we have actually been in the presence of God and God spoke to our hearts, and we sit there and we know clearly that He has, but yet we're not willing to do it because of how the circumstances may look, or how reality says, or how the media says, or how how man's approval is on it. Is it on it? Rather than thinking that God's faithful, God's loving, God's all powerful. He's mighty in His acts. He's good, and that He's going to protect us. He's going to lead us. He's going to guide us. He's going to equip us.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important to understand too.
Yeah, I think back in my life, man, when I've known Jesus probably since I was 8 years old. I remember accepting Jesus when I was 8, but it's always been off and on my relationship with the Lord until I was probably when I was 18. Remember talking about how it was me seeing my next door neighbor ran over, and that's when I really started growing really close to Him. Remember experiencing His presence in a mighty way when I.
Yeah, that's the great fish. That's Him preparing that great fish.
Yeah. I remember from His presence when I was 12 years old, going to the altar the first time to worship. But I remember there was a season in my life when my great grandma passed away, and my aunt and uncle. I was off and on, say the salvation prayer over again, and there'd be so many moments I would never dedicate myself to the Lord, but He was always pursuing me. There'd be times I was in my room, I'd be in my room by myself, and there was Rod Parsley. He was speaking a word saying revival, 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 and it wasn't because he was saying it, but the word revival. I remember
what do you think that means? When God pursues you, how does that feel? What is that?
I mean, He pursues us so many ways, like through circumstances and through our conscience. But there's been so many times He's pursuing with His presence, saying, "I want you." I want you. I mean, God is definitely a jealous God. He desires for people to know Him. And we got to remember, we don't ever initiate this thing. Whether you're a believer, walking with Jesus, or you're far away. We are not the ones who start this thing. He's the one who starts it first. If it wasn't for Him pursuing us, we want nothing to do with them. I think Mr. McKinney talks about that in class. He quotes that scripture. The guy looked down from heaven. I think it was Isaiah. I think he saw no one seeking him. And well, yeah, that's definitely something, a big theme that God pursues believers. But also about he also pursues people far from him. We see that with the idea of the sailors on the ship and the
These guys
Ninevites,
would have been typically considered not of God or the God of Israel anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe idolatry even, but they seem to have an understanding that the God of Israel is the one in control of this whole situation. And just like
story.
their fear and they were reluctant to throw Jonah overboard right away. Yeah. That same reluctancy is seen in Jonah wanting to not go to Nineveh.
Yeah.
So it's the same type deal there. It's something within our heart. I think it's a heart issue sometimes when it comes to that point. I think that comes with giving your heart fully to God and trusting Him with it rather than yourself. Trying to make sure that it's nothing to do with you. I think the most abundant ministry that a man or a woman could ever have is the one that's most dependent on Christ and dependent on God and His approval rather than what can I do. Because, like you say, I didn't initiate this.
Yeah.
The calling that I have and the reason I'm saved isn't because one day I said, you know what, I'm lost. No, he found me right where I was at and changed my life radically. And
you had a decision.
Yeah, I had a decision to make and publicly profess that. But I was, even though when I was lost and I had an understanding, I wasn't going around searching for a new me.
Yeah.
Rather, God was searching after me to find me right where I was at and to transform me right there.
Amen. And praise God, He produces people far away from us, and it's awesome. It's also a real cool story with those sailors, and because God was using Jonah in his disobedience to reach those guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's an awesome story about God's grace. That even though you don't understand things, hey, I was trying to follow Jesus, but yet He still used me in the midst of that to touch someone else's life. And I mean, I can see it over my life that I see God use me, and I'm like, God, I'm not walking with you. I mean, but yet You're using me to touch someone else's life.
Yeah.
Because see, God is into people, man. Jesus is into people. Mark Driscoll once said, I've shown the video of Mark Driscoll to you before about listen to him, but when he was stepping down for the issue from his church, he said a profound thing, so simple. I remember him saying this: people need Jesus, and Jesus loves people, and then that's the whole point of it all, man.
That's essentially the gospel.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
You even see the gospel presented right here in Jonah.
Yeah.
If you want to essentially say that.
Yeah, we see him. Yeah, because he's pursuing believers. And you think because Jesus, God's not pursuing. And when you know Jesus, God's still pursuing you.
Mm-hmm.
But He's also not pursuing believers. But He's pursuing those people who are far off from Him.
Yeah.
And this is why the Great Commission is so important, man. Because God. His vehicle, He doesn't need us, and He does like certain cases, like in the Middle East, and supernatural, like Jesus appearing to people. But that's what He wants to use the church for, to pursue people.
Right.
And we need to pursue other. What is that? Never mind. Forget that. But God's constantly pursuing people. I know the cowards may say He only